Hey, what's up, Commander Squad? It's Dragon Master Rigo here with another Magic the Gathering video for you guys. And today we are doing a tech deck on, you know, he speaks for himself, right? We're doing Ulalek Fused Atrocity, a pure Eldrazi monstrosity deck. I'm really excited to show this one. A couple people in the comment section and personal DMs have sent me on TikTok, when am I going to cover a tech deck for this commander? And, today's the day. So for those of you, I'm really, you're welcome. To everybody else who hates Eldrazi's, I'm sorry. But, maybe you'll have a change of heart when you guys see just how cool and how awesome Eldrazi's can be. And maybe they're not as bad as you think they are. I'm really excited to show you guys the deck I built for this, and we're going to cover a bunch of awesome stuff with it. A couple things to keep note of. I did take out 3 lands that you're going to see in today's video, and I replaced it with a Sakashima, Master of Multiples, and a Legion Loyalty. I'll just explain right now. The main purpose of those cards is to allow us to use this ability so that we don't have to sacrifice our legendary permanents. So we have a bunch of Eldrazi's in here are legendary, and since they are not going to be sacrificed, they don't need to go away, so they get to stay on the field. Not to mention, Legion Loyalty makes us exile the tokens that we make from combat. However, with the Master multiplied, we do not need to do that anymore, since it says that triggered abilities do not cause our stuff to be exiled or sacrificed. So we're basically creating an army every single time we attack. So that's kind of like a little win con there, a combo that I can't show you in this video, but those are the reason why those cards are being added to the deck. I do want to preface that this deck is proxied, and I do believe that proxies are meant to be used in a casual format, not for competitive play, as to respect the people that do buy Magic the Gathering cards. I do also think that your financial bracket should not determine what kind of cards you're allowed to play in Magic, so that's why I proxy. Hopefully I won't get too much hate for that, but it is what it is. Link to the deck list will be down in the description below. Let's get started. So the wording of this is pretty confusing to a lot of people, but basically what this is saying is that when you cast something and you pay an additional 2 mana, you're copying all the spells. When it says copy all spells you control, they're trying to say copy all spells on the stack, not all spells that are already on the field. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to explain how to use this card. This is a very, very misunderstood ability, and a bunch of triggers get denied, or a bunch of triggers get overlooked when playing this deck. So you want to be very careful. This is not meant to be a beginner deck whatsoever. But even I'm going to miss some triggers when we do our playthrough. So, we'll see. All right, let's go ahead and get into our sorceries first for this deck. We're going to go ahead and start off with with Discovery. It has a tempting offer. Search your library for a land card, then you may put it into the battlefield. Each opponent may also search their library for a land card. For each opponent who does this, I also get to search my library and put a land card onto the battlefield for free. So basically, I know that most likely this is not going to trigger multiple times, because they're going to look at me as an Eldrazi player and say,
"Hell no, you think I'm going to give you a basic land card? You think I'm going to give you, an Eldrazi player, more opportunities to spam those stupid Eldrazi's? Hell no!"
Probably everyone's going to be like that if they see me trying to get multiple lands, but you never know, right? People will think, whatever.
Yeah, whatever, Eldrazi's. Come on, bro. I got the dragon deck. I'm just going to spam ping you until you're dead before turn 5. Come on, you're not getting that commander out, bro.
So, maybe they'll do that. But yeah, that's one of our ramp spells. Next up, we have Kodama's Reach, another ramp. We have Skittering Invasion. It's a tribal sorcery Eldrazi, which can be copied with our ability of our commander. Put 5/0/5 Eldrazi spawn tokens onto the battlefield. Sacrifice. They have the ability to be sacrificed and add 1 colorless mana of any to our mana pool. So secretly, this is kind of like a ramp spell, since we get to use those tokens immediately to sacrifice for 5 colorless mana. We're going to use Ulalek's ability to make another copy of Skittering Invasion, which means they both get to make me 5 colorless Eldrazi spawn, and with the ability of Ulalek, which triggers all triggered abilities. Being cast is a triggered ability, which means these will double themselves, which means I'm going to create 20 0/5 Eldrazi spawns just from this casting and paying an additional 2 mana, which is 100% worth it. 9 mana to generate 20 mana is 100% worth it. All right, next up we have our Nature's Lore, another ramp spell. Avatar's Wrath. So this is a really, really awesome card. It just came out in the new Avatar set. I get to choose up to 1 target creature, then airbend the other creatures, then airbend each other creature. So I'm going to choose, obviously, my Ulalek. So how this spell is going to work, I'm going to choose Ulalek, and I'm going to airbend everything else, and they're all going to remain exiled. I'm going to exile them, and while they're exiled, its owner may cast it for only 2 mana rather than pay for its mana cost. So basically, I'm going to be able to get all of my Eldrazi's to be exiled, and I get to cast them again for free for basically 2 mana, which means I get to use their cast abilities again, and I get to trigger their abilities all over again with Ulalek. So I basically get to redo my board again and redo the BS that the Eldrazi's already did once. So really, really awesome spell right here. Next up, we have All This Dust. Each player sacrifices all permanents they control that are one or more colors. So basically, since everybody else is playing a color deck and I'm the only one playing an Eldrazi deck, this is going to make everybody sacrifice everything. Next up, we have a Cultivate. Once again, building more ramp. Next up, we have a Farseek. More ramp for us. We want to generate as much mana as possible very quickly so we can get all of our Eldrazi's out. Next up, a Rampant Growth. I get to search my library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped. Once again, more growth for us. Next up, we have Calamity of the Titans. As an additional cost to cast this spell, reveal a colorless creature card from your hand. Exile each creature or planeswalker with mana value less than the reveal card's mana value. There are a lot of Eldrazi's in this deck that are like 12, 15 higher mana. Everything's going to get exiled. There's nothing that's going to be like 10 mana or more on my opponent's side of the field. Next up, we have 3 visits. So basically, I get to go ahead and search my library for a forest card, put it onto the battlefield, and tap it. So, more ramp. Rise of the Eldrazi. The spell cannot be countered. Destroy target permanent. Target player draws 4 cards. Take an extra turn after this one. Exiled this card. Game changer, game ender right here. This is your game ending card. You know, you do some crazy stuff on your turn. Go ahead and cast this spell, and it's over. Your opponents will not be able to do anything about it. All right, let's get on to our instance. Rolling Regrowth, another ramp spell. We have Mana Drain as a counter spell that gives us a bunch of colorless mana based on the mana value of the spell that we countered. Really great for Eldrazi's. Once again, Eldrazi's cost so much to cast, so we were trying to generate as much as we can. Here we have Deflecting Swat. Once again, you're going to be the target of the table, so you got to have some defense ready to go. Not of This World. Counter target spell or ability that targets a permanent you control. Once again, self-protection, and it costs 7 less if the spell or ability is targeting is from a creature with power 7 or greater. Kozilek's Command, another instant, but this time it's an Eldrazi instant, which means this can be copied. Target player creates an X01 colorless creature spawn. Target player scries X, then draws a card. Exile target creature with mana value X or less. Exile up to X target cards from graveyards. So I get to choose 2 of these 4 different abilities. So we have Ugin's Binding, a really good trap card for pretty much doing a bunch of crazy stuff on the field. Return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. Whenever you cast a colorless spell with mana value 7 or greater, you may exile this from the graveyard. When you do, each non-land permanent return each non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. Basically, we get to use this once, put it in our graveyard, and once we cast something that's 7 or greater, we get to Cyclonic Rift at overload cost for free. All right, next up we have Harrow, another ramp spell. We got to get as much mana and as much as lands as possible, and that's what we're focusing on with the spells. Let's go ahead and look at our our artifacts. First off, we have the Party Tree. It's a great henge, so basically we get to draw a card every time an Eldrazi enters the battlefield, and it generates us 2 mana and 2 life. First is Incubator. I get to call out a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type cost 2 less to cast. We're trying to reduce the cost and cheat out these spells as much as possible, and this really helps us in the early game. Next up, we have Valkid and Ovary. I might cast spells as though they have flash, so some Eldrazi allow us to exile permanents and exile stuff immediately, which means we could do that in response, so that's just to keep our board more flexible. Next up, we have Coat of Arms. Since everything is going to be an Eldrazi, everything's going to be powered up by the fact that it's an Eldrazi, so everything's going to be skyrocket to being like 2020 power with this card. Darksteel Monolith, shout out to Paz. This is going to allow us basically to pay 0 for something for free during once per turn, and all you need is 1. All you need is to cast 1 thing for free and it's over. Next up, we have Front of Mythos. At the beginning of my upkeep, each player draws at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional 2 cards. So we're drawing 3 cards per turn. I don't really care that everyone else is drawing cards. You got to give them some. You got to give people some way to catch up to you, right? Otherwise, it's going to be too boring. A Chroma's Memorial that's going to be added to this deck, so keep that in mind that that's also in this deck. All right, let's go on to our lands. We have Forest, Island, Eldrazi Temple, Mountain, a Zagor Triome, Mountain, Swamp, Island, Swamp, Raguin Triome, Forest, Indiana Triome, Plains, Mountain, Forest, Ancient Tomb, Mountain, Swamp, Island, Swamp, Curia Triome, Plains, Forest, Forest, Plains, Command Tower, Plains, Forest, and a Savai Triome. So, unlike my other Wooburg decks, I haven't added the dual lands to this deck. I am going to get those printed, and I'm going to take out 10 out of the basic lands that you saw, and I'm going to replace them with the dual lands. Just to further fix our mana base, you know, we want to make sure that we keep our mana base at all times, and make sure that this is good to go, so that we never have to struggle for getting mana. All right, next up, let's get on to our enchantments. Now, first up, we have Monster's Vortex. This allows us, whenever we cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, we get to discover X, where X is that spell's mana value. When you discover, you exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a card that has the mana value or less. I get to cast it without paying its mana cost, or if I don't want to, I get to put it into my hand. So basically kind of like a mini Sunbird's Invocation trigger, and it allows us to pretty much keep if it's like a spell that we want to keep for later, it allows us to put it into our hand, so it gives us that flexibility. Next up, we have Omniscience. You know it's not a Dragon Master Regal deck without a Omniscience in the deck. I will never ever not put this deck if there's a blue. If blue is in my Commander's colors, I'm always putting Omniscience. And you know, you play Omniscience in an Eldrazi deck, it's over. Next up, we have Mana Flare, giving us and our opponents double mana. We're going to utilize that double mana even more than everybody else. Next up, we have Leyline of Mutation. It allows us, if it's in our opening hand before the game starts, we get to play with it on the battlefield for free. And it basically says I get to pay Wooburg rather than pay for the cost of my spells. So another way to cheat out our spells. We have Fervor. All our creatures have haste. Sunbird's Invocation, being able to pretty much get another Eldrazi after we already cast an Eldrazi for free is going to be super good for us. Next up, we have Virtue of Strength, being able to have triple mana for our basic lands. So, you know, we're going to be spamming a bunch of Eldrazi's. Spreading Plague, whenever a creature comes into play, destroy all other creatures that share a color with it. They can't be regenerated. So this is a really good way to deal with our opponents, right? They're going to be doing their best to counteract our Eldrazi's, which means they're going to be spamming as many creatures as possible. And this is a really big way to slow them down. So to be careful about what kind of creatures they summon, because they couldn't be board wiping their own deck. Next up, we have Mirara's Wake. It gives us personally double mana, and it gives our creatures +1/+1. Fiery Emancipation, we're doing triple damage. These Eldrazi's are already 10/10 as it is, and with Fiery Emancipation, that's 30 damage coming at you if one of them even hits you. Next up, we have Rites of Flourishing. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card, and I may play an additional land on each of my turns. So, more lands, more card draw. For Eldrazi's, that's too dangerous. Path of Annihilation, when it enters, I create 2 colorless Eldrazi spawns, and Eldrazi have tap it for 1 mana of any color. And since I already told you in the beginning of this video that we can also create tokens of our Eldrazi's, and they don't have to be exiled, so we get to keep them, that means we get to use those tokens for more mana and more craziness. Next up, we have Well of Ideas. When it enters, draw 2 cards. I get to draw an addition. My opponents get to draw an additional card on their upkeep, and I get to draw an additional card twice at my draw step. Warstorm Surge. Whenever a creature enters, you deal damage equal to its power to any target. Without me even attacking, I can already kill people at the table. With Fiery Emancipation and Warstorm Surge, you know that's a deadly combo. And these Eldrazi being 10/10s, 12/12s, 13/13s, right? They're high powered. So they're going to pretty much one-shot someone at the table before they even get to attack. Bazilic's Unsealing. It has Devoid, and whenever I cast a creature spell with mana value 5, 4, or 6, create 2 1/1 Eldrazi spawns. And whenever I cast a creature spell with 7 mana value or greater, draw 3 cards. Oh, I gave a sigh because this is every judge's worst nightmare and every player's worst nightmare when they see an Eldrazi player play this. I'm talking about Echoes of Eternity. If a triggered ability of a colorless spell you control or another colorless permanent you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, copy it. You may choose 2 targets for the copy. Since you're copying the spell, you're also copying the trigger. You're also copying the cast trigger of that copy. Not only with Ulalek's ability, you also get to go ahead and copy that copy another additional time. So that's another copy going onto the stack. And since the stack is being doubled, you get to copy the copy of the stack that you just doubled. I hope that made sense. It's a very, very crazy card. Not to mention this is an Eldrazi enchantment, which means that this can be copied additional times with the effect of Ulalek if I cast this on the field. As if it wasn't already crazy enough, having another copy of this is going to make the whole board go crazy. Basically gives all my creatures trample, and it also draws me a card every time a creature with 4 or greater comes onto the battlefield. You know, every Eldrazi here is going to be 4 or greater, so there's absolutely no way I'm not going to draw a card. Okay, here we go. What are all the creatures that are in this deck, and what could possibly be in the what evil monstrosity have I created? Right. First off, we have Joda. He gets to pay Ruberg rather than pay for the mana cost of your spells. So another way to cheat out the Eldrazi's. Roaming Throne, making it a copy of Eldrazi's, which means every single triggered ability of our Eldrazi's is going to be triggered an additional time. Emrakul, the World Anew. It's a 12/12, and whenever I cast a spell, gain control of all creatures target player controls. When I cast this and I pay double, I get to make another copy of it, which means I get to gain control of 2 players' creatures. And if I go ahead and have Roaming Throne and also my Echoes of Eternity, it's going to go up to like 6 or 8 players. But, you know, there's only 4 players in Commander, which means everybody's creatures are going to be yours when you cast this. When Emrakul World Anew leaves the battlefield, sacrifice all creatures I control, and it has Madness, pay for 6. Emrakul, the Promised End. It is a 13 mana, 13/13 spell, and it costs 1 less for each card among card types in my graveyard. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain control of target opponent during that player's turn. After that turn, that player takes an extra turn. It has flying, trample, and protection from instants, which means this cannot be counterspelled, as if that wasn't already BS enough. Next up, we have Donner of Hope. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens. They have sacrifice this creature, add 1 mana, and whenever I drag, and I get to sacrifice an Eldrazi spawn, tap target creature. Next up, we have Sowing Microspawn. When I cast a spell, search my library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This is already going to be really good because I get to copy it and I get to look for more lands. As you already know, giving a lands to a Eldrazi player is not the best thing to do. Next up, we have Springbloom Druid. When it enters, I get to sacrifice a land. If I do, look for 2 basic land cards, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Zul'Adok Void Gorger. Colorless spells from your hand with 7 mana value or greater have Cascade. So not only am I cascading once, I'm cascading twice, plus it's going to trigger again when I tap 2 for Ulalek's ability. So that's Cascade with Echoes of Eternity. That's Cascade. So it just goes crazy, right? It's insane. It's an insane ability. That betrays, it has Annihilator 2, and whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, that card is put onto my battlefield instead. So it uses Annihilator to our advantage. Rather than it going to the graveyard, we get to keep all the stuff that they sacrifice. So we have Skittering Cicada. You may cast spells as though they had flash, and whenever I cast a colorless spell, this gets +X/+X, where X is that spell's mana ability. So it just gives it more power and gives our stuff flash. Null Drifter, I may pay whenever I cast this spell, draw 2 cards as Annihilator 1. It has flying, you know, it's just really good to have on the field, and when we copy it, we get to draw multiple cards. Flayer of Loyalties. It costs 10 mana, and whenever I cast the spell, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature until end of turn. It has base power and toughness 10/10 and gains trample with Annihilator 2 and haste. This creature also itself has trample and Annihilator 2. So already a really, really awesome card. This is actually one of my favorites because I get to take possession of other people's creatures, which is super fun. Ulalek Butcher of Truth. When I cast a spell, draw 4 cards. It has Annihilator 4, and when it's put into the graveyard, it gets shuffled into the library instead. Ulamog the Infinite Gyre. When I cast this, destroy target permanent. It has Annihilator 4. This has Indestructible, and when it's put into the graveyard, it goes into the library instead. It is really good. Kozilek the Great Distortionist. Kozilek the Great Distortion. When I cast a spell, if I have fewer than 7 cards, draw cards equal to the difference. It has Menace, and I get to discard a card with value X. I get to counter target spell with that mana X value. So this gives me a huge flexibility. Opportunity to be able to counter people's spells and do an insane amount of damage to people. One of my favorites, Azalek the Swelling Scourge. Whenever this or another creature the battlefield dies, I get an experience counter. I get to pay Ruberg and give creatures +S/+X. And I get to give my Scions and Spawns gain Indestructible. My Scions and Spawns gain Indestructible and Annihilator 1 until end of turn. We really just wanted for the paying of the Ruberg to give everything Annihilator 1. Twins of Discord. When I attack, choose odd or even. Creatures of mana value can't be blocked this turn. So either even creatures can't block me or odd creatures can't block me. And also my colorless creatures gain Bloodthirst too. Glaring Flesh Sharker. It has the ability to, whenever I cast this spell, create a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn, and whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield under my control, this deals 1 damage to each opponent. So this is going to spam very quickly, and it's going to do a lot of damage to people with Legion Loyalty as well. We got Void Winnower. Whenever your opponents can't cast spells with an even mana value, your opponents can't block with creatures with an even mana value. So this is all about only playing odd spells, and it's very oppressive. So, you know, you're here to play mean, right? You're not playing Eldrazi's because you're nice. So, I mean, gotta put the worst cards in here. Ulamog the Careless Hunger. When you cast a spell, exile 2 target permanents. It has indestructible. Whenever this attacks, defending player exiles the top 20 cards of their library. So that's already a lot. We got Rakdos. Rakdos is really good in this deck. Whenever I deal damage, it's going to make somebody lose a bunch of life, and then I get to go ahead and pay 1 colorless less for every life my opponent lost this turn. So more ways to cheat out the Eldrazi spells. We got Nyxbloom Ancient right here, so tripling the amount of mana that I produce. Ulamog the Defiler. Whenever I cast a spell, target opponent exiles half of their library rounded up. It has Ward, sacrifice 2 permanents, and then whenever this enters the battlefield, this enters with a battlefield with a +1/+1 counter amount of the highest amount of mana I made that player discard from their library. And then it has Annihilator X, where X is number of +1/+1 counters it has. So this could have a potential of +X Annihilator if there's a mana value 10 spell that I made somebody discard from their library. Very, very powerful card. All right, so now that we have gone through all of the parts of this deck, let's go ahead and shuffle it up, and let's do a 1 through 10 playthrough style of what this would be like if this was your commander or if you were playing this deck. If you want to play along and test your luck to see if you can beat this deck, go ahead and shuffle up and play with me, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, here we go. So we're going to go ahead and start us off. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Here we have our 7 cards. We're starting with a Kodama's Reach, a Swamp, Front of Mythos, Echoes of Eternity, Kira Triome, a land, an island, and a Rites of Flourishing. I like this a lot. I don't have green yet, but I assume I'll eventually reach green. So hopefully I can do Kodama's Reach really quickly. So let's get started. Draw for turn. I'll put a land onto the battlefield. I'll put my Triome, and I'll pass. Draw for turn. Play a land, and I'll pass. Draw for turn, tap 3, play Rites of Flourishing, allowing me to play an additional land. I'll play an island, and I'll pass. I'll untap, draw. I get to draw twice. I'll play a land. I will tap for 3. I'll go ahead and play a Kodama's Reach. And I'll go ahead and search for a red and a white. Okay, play the white. Since I can play an additional land this turn, go ahead and tap 3 for Rolling Regrowth. Sacrificing a land, I'll sacrifice a white, and I'll go look for a green and a white. And they come in tapped. So already by like turn 4, I believe, we're already able to play our commander and have a bunch of mana left over, which is really, really good for us. Okay, this is my hand, and I'll go ahead and pass, untap, draw 2 times since I have that, play 1 land. We'll go ahead and do, let's see, we got 8 mana. Play something for free, couldn't I? We'll tap 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll play our commander. Then we'll go ahead and tap for 4 and play Front of Mythos. which will allow us to draw basically 3 cards in total with these 2 on the field. So I get to draw 4 cards at the beginning of my next turn. And I'll pass. Untap, draw 4. Play 2 lands. And let's see. We can go ahead and get started with this. Let me see. 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. We'll tap 8. Go ahead and play our Darksteel Monolith. This will allow me to pay 0 rather than pay for the mana cost of something. And I'll go ahead and pay for a It That Betrays. Yeah, It That Betrays. And I'll pay 2 mana to make a copy of it. And I'll go ahead and pass. I'll untap, upkeep, draw 4. I'll play 2 lands. I will go ahead and, let's see. I could pay for 0 mana rather than pay for the cost of something in my hand. So I'll go ahead and do it for Kozilek, the Butcher of Truth. And I'll go ahead and pay 2 mana to copy it. So I'll copy it, which means another one will come in. Though it's immediately going to die because of the legendary rule, so it's going to go away. However, its cast ability will come in though. And it is a triggered ability, so it's going to get doubled, which means I drew 4 cards when I originally casted. But then, because I made a copy of it, it's going to be 8. And then I get to copy the triggered abilities of those copies. So we're going to go ahead and draw 8. We're going to draw 4 times 4, which is 16 cards. So we'll draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll pay 7. We'll go ahead and play our Nyxbloom Ancient. So now this is triple mana. And I'll go ahead and pay this is triple. So I'll go ahead and pay this for 9. Yeah. Pay this for 9 mana, leaving me 2 mana floating. Play Virtue of Strength, which tripled my mana again. So now all my lands start for 6 times mana. Yeah, 6 times mana. And then I have 2 mana floating. And that's 6 times the mana. Okay, we'll go and tap this. We'll play. So that's 2 mana floating. With 6, that's 8. So I'll go ahead and play Echoes of Eternity. And I'll play 2. Play with that 2 extra mana, a copy of it to go on the field. Let's say somebody wanted to exile that in response. We'll go ahead and play Deflecting Swat, which is in our hand. And we'll exile something. So that's on the stack. It triggers. So we get to keep it. And then I'll move to discard. Or actually, I'll swing with these 2 11/11s. I have Annihilator 2. That's Annihilator 4 coming at someone, which means 4 permanents were sacrificed. And that's 4 creatures that we get to, 4 things that get sacrificed that go into our field as well. And I'll move to discard. So I'll keep these 3. Let's see. 6, 7, 8. So I gotta get rid of something. Get rid of the Farseek. Okay. And I will go ahead and pass. It's a lot of stuff in the graveyard, but that is a-okay. Okay. We'll go ahead and untap, upkeep, draw. I have Fiery Emancipation, so we'll draw actually 4 times. Okay, so I get to play land. I get to play anything in my hand for free. And I have all missions, so I'll play all missions. And that's GG, right? Play my Fiery Emancipation for triple damage. We'll go ahead and play all of our creatures, right? We love playing our creatures so much. Yeah. Just a bunch of creatures, actually, which is insane. And I'm paying 2 for all of them, right? So all of this is going to get triggered a bunch of times. A bunch of triggers will be made. A bunch of stuff will happen. We're going to have a bunch of stuff on the field. Somebody will have exiled half of their library 4 times. I will have exiled 8 things. I will have exiled 4 target or destroyed 4 target permanents. My opponents can't play even mana spells anymore. And I made a bunch of 1/1 scions. And I made a bunch of 1/1 scions whenever I created stuff. So pretty insane deck, right? And this is not even turn 10. Like, a bunch of stuff happened, right? So I mean, that's really awesome, right? That's like one of the ways of like the full power of this deck. So even if I got that trigger wrong where I drew 16 cards, I still had a bunch of stuff in my hand that would have made everything would have gone crazy. So I don't think that was a misplay. I think that's exactly how it should work. But if it doesn't, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, that's the power of this deck. Really, really powerful. You know, there's some other crazy stuff you can do. But, you know, I want you to figure those things out for yourself. But that's going to be it on our full breakdown of the Ulalek deck that I created. I think it's really awesome and really flashy, and just, you know, it allows a lot of great stuff in the early game, right? People are going to be scared by what you're doing no matter what stage of the game it is. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to go ahead and give the video a like. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications. Let me know what kind of Eldrazi deck you run, and I will see y'all in the next one. It's Dragon Master Rigo signing off. Have a great Magic Day, guys.